Okay, so picture this. You have a portrait, like a simple still image,
Hmm.
and you want to bring it to life. Make it talk, make it express emotions. You're not an animator. But what if AI could do it for you just from like an audio clip or even a few facial cues? That's the kind of mind-blowing tech we're diving into today. We have this research paper, EchoMimic, lifelike audio-driven portrait animations through editable landmark conditions.
Yeah, this is really interesting stuff. What's so cool about EchoMic is it really tackles this problem that's kind of plagued animators forever. How do you make these talking head animations believable? Traditional methods, even with like really sophisticated 3D modeling, they often miss those subtle little nuances of human expression that really make a difference.
Yeah, you're talking about like the tiny twitches and the way our eyes move around and the little asymmetries in our smiles. Like those details are so hard to capture, but they make such a difference in whether something looks real or, just creepy.
Hmm.
So how does Echo make it past that? I'm guessing diffusion models have something to do with this. With all the AI image generators lately, it seems like that's got to be part of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Diffusion models have been a game changer. The basic idea is pretty fascinating. You start with an image, and then you add a ton of digital noise to it. You basically scramble it beyond recognition, and then you train the AI to reverse that process, like guided by text prompts. It's almost like you're teaching a computer to paint by first showing it how to erase scribbles expertly. Echomic takes that idea and kind of applies it to video, but with a really cool twist.
Okay, so I'm all ears. The paper mentions that it uses both audio and facial landmarks. Now that sounds like it could lead to some really impressive control and realism.
Exactly. That's like the real key innovation here. Most previous methods have focused on either audio or landmarks, but never both at the same time. And by combining these inputs, EchoMic gets a much deeper understanding of how faces move and react in sync with speech.
Yeah, it's almost like you're teaching the AI to understand the language of facial expressions,
Yeah.
the grammar of nonverbal cues alongside the spoken words. So walk me through how this audiovisual wizardry actually works. The paper talks about like a three-part system, right?
Right. So there's the denoising UNet, which is kind of the core of the system. Think of it as a supercharged diffusion model, but it's specifically designed to handle multiple video frames and all those conditions, the audio, the landmarks, and the original portrait. And then you have the reference unit, which is kind of working in the background, and it's constantly making sure that the animation stays true to that original image. You don't want it to, veer off into some weird Picasso-esque interpretation.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I'm guessing the landmark and audio encoders, those are kind of the translators here, turning all those landmarks and sound waves into something that the denoising UNet can actually understand, kind of like a universal language for AI.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even cooler. Echo Mimic uses something called attention layers, and these are kind of like pattern recognition superhighways within the AI. They allow it to not only understand each individual element like a frame or a sound or a landmark, but also the relationships between them. And this is what leads to those really smooth, synchronized animations that you see.
So it's not just mimicking, it's actually learning those deeper connections.
Yeah.
The subtle dance between audio and visuals that make human expression so complex. But how do you even begin to train a model this intricate? I mean, training AI usually requires mountains of data.
Well, they use a two-stage process. They start with training on individual frames, just to nail that audio-visual connection. And then they move on to training on video sequences to capture how those movements actually flow and evolve over time.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
But I think they mentioned some special techniques to make that training process even more effective.
Oh, absolutely. One technique that really stands out is random landmark selection. It's almost like playing peekaboo with the AI. They'll randomly drop parts of the face during training, an eyebrow here or a corner of the mouth there. And this forces the model to get really good at filling in the blanks. So it becomes more robust and it's able to handle a much wider range of expressions, even with incomplete information.
Wow. It's like they're teaching the AI to improvise, to kind of imagine what's missing and fill it in realistically.
Yeah.
It's learning to be more human in a way.
Exactly. And here's another aha moment. They also use audio augmentation. Think about it.
Yeah.
We augment images all the time in AI training, right? We tweak them, add noise, create variations to expand the data set. But they realized, why not do the same thing with audio? So you add a little touch of noise here, change the pitch there. It's like giving the AI a more diverse vocabulary of sounds to learn from.
That seems so obvious now that you say it. But that's often the mark of true innovation, isn't it? Finding those elegant solutions that were hidden in plain sight. Okay, so we've trained this AI virtuoso. Time to put it to the test. What kind of control do we have over these animations? Can we really make a portrait express anything we want?
Well, EchoMimic offers three different driving modes. You have audio-driven, landmark-driven, or a hybrid of the two. So this gives you a ton of flexibility. Imagine you're using an audio clip to animate a portrait, and then you can use landmarks to fine-tune the expression. Maybe add a wink or a subtle frown. The possibilities are pretty mind-boggling.
That's really cool. But how does EchoMimic handle those landmark-driven animations? Especially when there's a big difference between the reference image and the desired expression. Like, what if you wanted to map a big toothy grin onto, I don't know, a portrait of a very serious-looking historical figure?
Well, they have this thing called part-aware motion synchronization. It's basically a super precise alignment tool that ensures those driving landmarks are mapped accurately onto the reference image,
Yeah.
even when there are significant differences in the shapes. So yeah, you could theoretically map expressions onto just about anything, and it would look surprisingly convincing.
Okay, I'm officially blown away. But we need more than just cool demos. How did EchoMimic perform on those standard evaluation metrics, the ones that really tell us if it's as good as it seems?
It crushed them. EchoMimic outperformed all the existing methods on metrics like FID and FED, which
Yeah.
essentially measure the quality and consistency of the animations. But here's the really interesting part. It scored exceptionally well on the EFID score.
EFED, that one's new to me. What is that?
Yeah, so EFID is specifically designed to assess how realistic the expressions are in the generated faces. It goes beyond just mimicking movements. It really delves into those subtle emotional nuances that we as humans are so finely attuned to. And the fact that EchoMimic excels here suggests it's capturing something deeper, like the essence of human emotion.
Wow, now that is taking talking heads to a whole new level. But even with these amazing results, I'm guessing there's still some limitations, right? I mean, no technology is perfect.
Of course, of course. The authors acknowledge that EchoMimic, while groundbreaking, still relies on adapting image-based techniques to video. There's a lot of potential in exploring dedicated video processing frameworks to really push the boundaries even further. Imagine what we could achieve with algorithms specifically designed to understand the complexities of moving images.
That makes a lot of sense. And what other exciting avenues for future research do you see on the horizon?
Well, one area that comes to mind is real-time generation. Imagine using acceleration techniques to enable instantaneous animation. So you could have real-time interaction with a digital human who responds to you with lifelike expressions and movements. It'd be like having a conversation with a digital reflection of yourself.
I'm already getting chills. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, I think it's important to pause and consider the broader implications of this technology. You know now that AI can create such realistic talking heads. What are the ethical considerations? How do we ensure that this technology is used responsibly, especially when it comes to things like deepfakes? That's something I think for all of you listening out there to really think about.
Yeah, it's a crucial question, and one that we're definitely going to have to address as this technology continues to evolve. The potential for both good and misuse is undeniable.
We'll definitely delve deeper into those ethical considerations in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, let those wheels start turning. It's really incredible to think about what this technology could unlock. We've talked about the how of EchoMimicV, but I'm curious about the so what. What are the real-world applications here? Where could this make a real difference?
Oh, the applications are vast and frankly pretty exciting. Think about the entertainment industry. Filmmakers could use this to create digital characters that are indistinguishable from real actors, or even bring historical figures to life for documentaries.
Yeah, imagine a historical drama where, instead of actors just wearing costumes, their faces are seamlessly transformed to match those of historical figures. The level of immersion would be incredible.
Exactly. It would add a whole new level of authenticity to storytelling. And think about the possibilities for video games. Imagine interacting with non-player characters that are so lifelike you almost forget they're not real people.
Yeah, the gaming experience could be totally revolutionized. But let's move beyond entertainment for a second. This tech has applications in fields like education and healthcare too, right?
Absolutely. Think about personalized avatars for online learning platforms powered by EchoMimic. These avatars could deliver lectures, guide students through interactive exercises, provide feedback, all with nuanced expressions and natural speech. It could make online learning so much more engaging and effective.
It's like having a personal tutor right there on your screen, tailored to your specific needs. And in healthcare, I could see this being huge for people with communication disorders.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine someone who's lost their ability to speak due to an illness or injury. EchoMic could be used to create a personalized avatar that speaks for them, you know, using their own voice recordings or even translating their thoughts into speech. The impact on their quality of life could be really profound.
Yeah, we're talking about breaking down communication barriers that were once considered insurmountable. That's pretty inspiring. But as with any powerful technology, we have to talk about the potential downsides. Deepfakes are the obvious concern here, right?
Yeah, deepfakes are definitely a serious issue. The ability to create realistic videos of people saying or doing things they never actually did has huge implications, for misinformation, propaganda, even personal attacks. It's a problem we can't ignore.
It's a scary thought. Someone could use this tech to damage someone's reputation or spread false information so easily. So how do we prevent that from happening?
Well, it's a really complex challenge, and it requires a multi-pronged approach. On the technological front, researchers are working on these sophisticated algorithms that can actually analyze videos for subtle inconsistencies,
Right.
things that might reveal a deepfake. It's like a digital detective looking for those telltale signs of manipulation.
That's good to hear. But technology alone probably won't solve this.
Yeah.
We need to raise public awareness too, right? Help people become more discerning consumers of online media.
Absolutely. We need to cultivate media literacy in the age of deepfakes. People need to be more critical of the media they consume online and be aware that not everything they see or hear is real.
It's about thinking critically, questioning sources, not taking everything at face value. It's a skill we all need to develop in this digital age. What about the legal side of things? Do we need new laws or regulations to address the potential misuse of this technology?
I think it's inevitable. Legislation needs to catch up with these advancements. We need clear laws that define what constitutes a deepfake, how it can be used ethically, and what the penalties are for malicious use. It's a complex legal landscape that will require a lot of careful consideration.
It sounds like we're just beginning to understand the ethical and societal implications of this technology. It's a lot to grapple with.
It is, and there are even more layers to consider. For example, how do we ensure that this technology is used fairly and equitably? What about the potential for bias in the training data, which could lead to biased outputs? These are questions we need to be asking ourselves right now at these early stages of development.
Yeah, we need to make sure this tech doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities or create new ones. It's a powerful tool, but it needs to be wielded responsibly.
Another important aspect is transparency. As we move toward a world where we're interacting with these increasingly realistic digital humans, it's crucial that we know when we're dealing with a synthetic entity. That transparency is paramount.
Yeah, people have the right to know whether they're interacting with a human or an AI. It's about honesty and respecting people's autonomy.
And we can't forget about the potential impact on human connection. If we become too reliant on interacting with these flawless, always available digital beings, will it affect our ability to connect with real people, with all their imperfections and complexities?
That's such a fascinating question. Will we start to crave the perfection or predictability of digital companions and find real people messy and unpredictable in comparison? It really gets to the heart of what it means to be human.
It does. Technology is always a double-edged sword. It's up to us as a society to guide its development and use in a way that benefits humanity.
Well said. It feels like we've covered so much ground already, from the technical intricacies of EchoMimic to these really complex ethical dilemmas it poses. It's been quite a journey.
It has. But we're not done yet. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the more philosophical questions raised by this research.
Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get existential.
As we kind of venture further into this realm of EchoMimic and all the possibilities it unlocks, it's hard not to bump into some pretty profound philosophical questions.
It's true. We've talked about, the technical marvels and the potential impact on all these different industries. But this research really makes you think about some big picture stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what does it even mean to be human in a world where technology can mimic us so convincingly?
Yeah. One question that immediately comes to mind for me is what happens to our sense of self? Like our understanding of what makes us unique when AI can replicate our appearance and our behavior with this level of fidelity. It really kind of blurs the lines.
It does. I mean, we've always considered ourselves distinct from other species because of our capacity for language and emotion and, complex thought. But if AI starts to exhibit those same qualities, where does that leave us? Do we have to redefine what it means to be human?
It definitely challenges this notion of human exceptionalism. Maybe we need to look deeper. beyond just behavior and focus on qualities like consciousness and self-awareness, that subjective experience, those aspects of being that we haven't been able to replicate in machines yet.
And what about identity? If we can create digital versions of ourselves that look and sound just like us, what does that say about the uniqueness of our individual selves? Like, could our identity exist in multiple forms, both physical and digital?
It raises really fascinating questions about authenticity and, the nature of self. Is our physical body the only container for our identity, or can it exist in, multiple realms? It's a question philosophers have thought about forever, but now it's taking on a whole new meaning in this digital age.
Yeah. Imagine a future where we could create these digital avatars that represent different facets of ourselves, like our playful side or our professional persona, maybe even versions of ourselves from the past or the future. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And it brings up all sorts of ethical considerations, too. Who owns the rights to our digital identities? Can we control how they're used? What happens to them when we die? Do our digital selves live on? These are questions we'll need to figure out as this technology keeps getting more sophisticated.
It's a whole new world of legal and ethical complexities, and we're really just starting to explore it. Another philosophical angle that I find interesting is the relationship between reality and simulation. I mean, as these technologies get more and more advanced, how will we even be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's synthetic?
It's a question that's already relevant today, right? With all this social media and the curated realities we see online. But imagine a world where these digital experiences become so immersive, so believable that they, rival or even surpass physical reality in terms of how they impact our emotions and perceptions.
Yeah, it could lead to a huge shift in our values and priorities. Will we start to place more importance on experiences in the digital realm? Will we become less connected to the physical world around us?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what we truly value as human beings.
Exactly. Will we look for fulfillment in the real world or in this boundless digital space? And what about the impact on relationships? I mean, if we're constantly interacting with these, hyper-realistic digital beings, will that change what we expect from our real-world relationships?
That's a great question. Will we start to crave the perfection and predictability of these digital companions and then find real people, messy and unpredictable by comparison? It really gets to the core of what makes us human.
It does. These are questions that really touch on the very essence of our humanity. And the rise of technologies like EchoMimic is kind of forcing us to confront them head on.
It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time. We're really on the verge of a technological revolution that has the potential to completely change our world.
It is. And as we navigate this new landscape, it's so important that we have these thoughtful and critical conversations about what these technologies mean. We need to ask the tough questions, consider the consequences, and work together to make sure these advancements ultimately benefit humanity.
Well said. So to everyone listening out there, as we wrap up this deep dive, we're leaving you with maybe more questions than answers. But hopefully we've sparked your curiosity and given you some things to think about as we enter this incredible new future.
Yeah, the future is definitely uncertain, but one thing's for sure. It's going to be an amazing journey. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into this world of knowledge.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.